Hello, this is the start of a new series about Mercury through the houses, and I thought we'd just talk about Mercury a little bit first and get to know what it actually indicates. So, in the natural zodiac, Mercury rules uh, third house and sixth house, Gemini and Virgo. So they're both of them are actually dual houses. One is air sign, Gemini. The other one is an earth sign, which is Virgo. So they're both very, very important houses. They're both Upachaya houses, which means they're big time, and once you start working with them, they start to get better. And this is really very much indicative of what Mercury is, because Sun is the king, Moon is the queen, and this is their son, their child. So there is, wherever we have in our charts Mercury, we are slightly immature about it, because obviously this is about young children, kids, youth, adolescents, students. So this is all very much about the process of growing and things in wherever. Then once we apply ourselves, things get better. So there is a naivety about the house that Mercury resides in our chart. So I thought we'd just have a look and just see, what kind of things are indications for Mercury. So Mercury is obviously communication, because it rules the third house of natural zodiac. So you're born in the first, in the second one, obviously you're with family, you start to speak. And then third house is you start to move, express yourself, communicate what your needs are. So it's very much about self-expression, and you start using your hands and gestures. So as a baby, you see that they know what it is to say goodbye. They just, if they don't like something, they can use their hands and just like push the food away if they don't want to. So it's very much about like learning to let the others how you are feeling, and that actually never leaves you. And we know, all of us in life, that people who have the most fulfilling lives and relationships are the people who can actually express themselves fully, let the people know they kind of know, they know their own boundaries. They just know how, when things doesn't sound right, they can just communicate it. And those are friends and family members that we respect most, because we know that if they don't want to do anything, they can't be persuaded really, and they know themselves, they know their mind. Sometimes they're a little bit willful, but nonetheless, though, it's not a bad thing. So it actually rules Mercury rules friends, siblings, communication, any form of communication, rules the arts, rules things like intellect. I think Sun is intelligence and Mars is logic, but Mercury is practical and intellectual, and that's, I think, one of the things that Sage Gemini says about the sixth house, is that it's an important sign of the zodiac, because it's like literally how you get by day to day, how you manage yourself, manage your life, manage your money. Without a good Mercury, people can hoard, people can't, they just cannot, they become like victims of their own weakness, if you like, in relationships, in jobs, etc., where they can't express themselves, and people think that they're okay with the status quo, and then there's just misunderstanding going on there. So it is a very, very important thing. But obviously, both third and sixth house, there are Upachaya houses, so they do get better with time. But generally speaking, because it rules friends, neighbours, siblings, and your colleagues as well, so it's literally is how we kind of interact with people, friendships, associates, those kind of things are all very mercurial things. Mercury rules currency, stock exchange, stock market. It any kind of work which is paperwork, like clerical work, learning, students, schools, any form of travel, moving around, exercise, being active, being out and about, hobbies and interests. I mean, it's such an important planet. Jobs to do with computer as well, so any form of technology, mobile phones, computers, satellite dishes, anything like that is all to do with graphic design, marketing, visual arts generally, things you make with your hands, any form of talents and skills, courses that you do to learn things that then they can apply to your life. All of those are to do with your third house, which is all to do with Mercury. So Mercury is siblings, and obviously in the third house, it's also your will and your bravery as well, because this is when you've been born, you start to talk, then you start to express yourself, and you start to become brave. This is probably the time when your brother or sister, younger or older brother and sister, they come and take your toy away, and you have to fight for your toy, because this is like, no, this is mine. So you have to be brave and tell the person no, set boundaries and allow them, or if they do something wrong, you kind of brave it and say, don't do it, don't touch my toy, don't eat my sweets, things like that. So it's that kind of thing as well. It says also it rules fast food, because it's a fast moving planet, and so this is when you meet up with friends, go for a cafe, go to their coffee shop, have a coffee, and maybe an express sort of food like sandwiches and pizza. All those sort of takeaway foods, fast foods, are all ruled by Mercury. So, and it's obviously travel, but short distance travel is ruled by Mercury. And so this is the reason why when you're actually working, because Mercury likes to be busy, and is curious as a planet. So when you actually get really stuck on a project, it's really good to start moving. Just go for a short walk or make yourself a drink and just move around a little bit, and that kind of helps Mercury, develop things. It's strong in the first house, so it gets directional strength in the first house. But it also means that in the first house there is things that needs to be developed, because wherever Mercury is in our chart, that's where we are a little bit young about it, a bit naive and immature maybe even about it, because we don't really, it's a young thing, it's a young planet, and it needs to develop over time, and things just get better with time. However, in the first house, it will always have that real focus. From there, it will be aspecting your seventh house, so it indicates that you want to be with somebody, because Mercury also rules games and having fun, doing fun things, comedy, being comedic, jokes, things like that. So it likes a bit of banter. And so when it's aspect in the seventh house, you want to be with somebody who maybe was your friend, you can be friendly with, you can chat to, you can have a laugh with, and do like fun things together, like go to dance classes together, or you go to, I don't know, go to walking groups, or just kind of interact, go to the cinema together, travel together quite a lot. They like that. They like somebody who's active. They go maybe to hikes and go skiing together and things like that. So these will be very important to them. And it also rules kind of interaction in terms of business and commerce. It's all ruled by by Mercury as well. Mercury does make the person, particularly if it's strong in their chart, multi-talented, because they want to know a little bit about everything. And you find that when you have Mercury Dasha or Mahadasha, as Mahadasha or the Subdasha, Antardasha, you actually get interested in all forms of different things. If it falls like in your, because it's data and information, and particularly if it falls in your 8th house during a Dasha, you want to do research to gain more information. You're just hungry for information. And it rules as a planet, obviously 3rd house rules your hands, your arms and shoulders, and in the 6th house rules your digestive system. And so, and the Mercury in the first house or anything like that will actually, you also kind of notice that he has got third and sixth house indications as well, but obviously in different houses that house indications will come into it as well. So Mercury does really well obviously in Gemini because it rules Gemini, and it also rules Virgo. Virgo is not just own house, but at 15 degrees is actually also the exaltation degree of Mercury. And from 15 to 20 degrees, it's actually, I probably say the rest of it, it's like more Trachona sign, which means like the head office of very comfortable there. And it also is debilitated in Pisces. And obviously, you know, Mercury is friendly with the Sun, Venus and Saturn and Rahu, Ketu. But it very much struggles with Jupiter and also with Mars. These are the two planets that are not good with for Mercury. Mercury does, if it is close to Saturn, it will have issues because obviously it means that it develops even later. There's a shyness about it, has difficulty expressing itself, and there's always like, particularly because it is also a planet that's it's an earthy planet, even though it rules an air sign and an earth sign, but generally speaking it is an earthy sign. It likes material things, and so when it is in earthy signs, it can have a jealousy issue as well, because it is the green-eyed thing as well, you know, because it's immature about things, so it can have like those things as well. So so generally speaking though, if it is in an earthy sign or in earthy planet nakshatras, person has got to really work in order to move forward, not to actually be hung up on what other people have or what other people did, and actually just free themselves of all that and then just move themselves forward. Because when you work with Mercury really well, Mercury gives you a lot of things in life because it's a fun planet, and why wouldn't you want to have all the fun in your life? So, and obviously this is going to be about a sort of like a Mercury that's not in conjunction or aspected by any planets. I'm just going to give you the purest form, and it naturally also rules the skin and rules respiratory system and also your nervous system and allergies. So you often find when it is either in transit or in a dasha, or if in your chart naturally is actually in, say, in Jupiter sign or in Mars signs. In Mars, it will give you inflammation of the skin, so you have to really kind of, as with anything, it gets better with time. You know, because Mars is impulsive, and obviously this is Mercury's planet of speech, so it can give you reactive, impulsive speech. You say things without thinking, because that's what Mars does. You know, sort of agitates Mercury, and that can happen with conjunction, aspect, or Mercury sitting in Mars's sign. So that can happen. That can happen the opposite as well if Mars is in Mercury signs too. When it is with Jupiter, or in Jupiter nakshatras, or in Jupiter signs, or Jupiter also in Mercury signs, they're opposites, and they really are very different agenda. So Mercury is a bit gossipy, and it's a little bit fickle because it's a planet of fast moving. It's young, and obviously, you know, Jupiter is wisdom, the wise one, the older one, you know. So and so there is like a gender issue there. So that can also, because also what happens with Jupiter expands everything as well. So you'll find that the person who has that, they can't stop talking. And sometimes even if it's happening in, like, say, for example, in transit, you can't help yourself but just like over talking. It's such a chatty, or if Rahu does the same thing, expands like the speech, but not in a bad way. But with Jupiter it does, because Jupiter just can't stop it, because it expands it. And Jupiter can be a little bit like what's the Jupiter is a little bit like I know best kind of thing. So it gives that kind of it projects that onto Mercury as well, so things come out like that. And sometimes it creates problems with the nervous system. And obviously because Jupiter rules liver, we can actually start having liver issues. So we have to be careful about those kind of things. Be just working on our planets, because remember, our planets are us. It's how we. So once you can actually work with wisdom with everything. But I really do think it's a wonderful, wonderful way to use your chart really well to your advantage. So. Obviously, because it rules your respiratory system, some of the remedies with Mercury are really easy. So I think Mercury always does better if you got afflicted Mercury, is to always be aware that you need to exercise, you need to be active, and you need to spend time with friends and cousins as well, because six houses, cousins and aunts and things like that. So. And you just want to be like, so do connect with people, do join groups if they are interested in cooking, do a cooking class, carpentry, things like that, because they can be very multi-talented. And it really does you good to do some breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, things like that, but particularly breathing, just learning to breathe. And because it rules the respiratory system, and that really, the oxygenation really helps your digestive system, because it rules the digestive system. And normally Mercury, sixth house Mercury has got issues, but if it's or sixth house or Mercury, or it gives you digestive issues. So you can have all those things like candida and Crohn's disease and things like that can occur because of that. So by oxygenating and slowing things down, it can really help. Just taking, using the best in best things in life. So just wanted to say also, so wherever Mercury is, it will also aspect 7 houses away only. That's the only time. And so what will happen is those areas of your life, you do well to share them with friends. And it kind of, because it's also a benefic planet, it really helps kind of have an approach with it that that things will improve. Mercury is the only planet that changes its nature according to the planets that it sits with. So if it's conjunct malefics like Rahu, Ketu, Sun, Mars or Saturn, it does become malefic. And also, so its nature can be a little bit negative. And also the other thing I wanted to say was that it's I only take 8 degrees away from the sun as a combustion, because it's a planet that is friendly with the sun and travels with the sun and Venus normally. So therefore, it can actually work really, really well with the sun, as long as within 8 degrees. Obviously, if it's retrograde, then you have to really kind of take maybe 10 degrees. But generally speaking, it does work okay with the sun. It gives good intelligence as long as both of them are ruling good houses for you. But yeah, so the house that they're in, they're definitely going to be, if it is on its own, then it's going to be really good. So anyway, that's about Mercury. Thank you. Okay, so 11th house, as you know, it's an Upachaya house, so it does get better with time. If we just go through some of the indications of 11th house. So 11th house is house of elder siblings, gains, wealth, It's house of desires, hopes and wishes. It's your big networks, big groups. Its second house is from your 10th house, so it's your earnings from your work. And it's basically, it's house of like all your kind of groups, whether it's professional networks, professional groups, friends, big crowds of friends, things like that. These are not necessarily your intimate friends. Intimate friends can be third house or sometimes even second house because they become more like family, very, very close to you. So this is also 11th house is house of big, large corporations, big organizations, massive companies, those kind of companies will be part of this as well. So this is now bringing together indications of 11th house and also Mercury together. So Mercury, planet of speech and organization, practicality, friendliness, all of that brings these two flavors together. Obviously, we're talking about Mercury with no conjunctions, no aspects, good or bad. And obviously, the flavor of this will be different according to those, and also the condition of Mercury, because the stronger the Mercury is, the more they're astute about like who are part of their groups, and it works from that kind of being picky, because it can also be quite discerning in that sense. So this is and it's also directly opposite the 5th house, 11th house. So it's this is not just networks. They want to gain through networks. They want to be like involved in investments. They're intelligently navigating through things. Again, so condition of the 11th Lord and the 5th Lord as well, that will make a difference to this, because this could be like very, very influential circle of friends, that kind of thing. So let's because this is like Mercury connected with wealth. Mercury naturally rules the 3rd house of the zodiac anyway, so it deals with money and stock exchange too. And 11th house can also be banking, particularly if it's related to the 2nd house. So there is always this wealth element attached to it, and because it's right opposite the 5th house, 5th house is all to do with your investments and gambling and stocks and shares, that kind of thing can be seen through that too. So, and also 5th house is to do with politicians, royals, sports, did I say gambling? And it's house of intelligence too. So this planet of intellect is now right opposite the house of intelligence. So they want to fulfill their desires by just using their ability according to the condition of Mercury. So Mercury will be like mover shaker, because it's just so flexible in his thinking and his doing, so it's able to fulfill these things. And natural 11th house of the zodiac is also Aquarius, so it's a friendly sign to Mercury, so it does naturally do pretty well in that. So so this person will be able to gain in some way through groups. And this also 5th house is also children as well, so it could just be that something through that, and also students, education too. So this will be a person who can bring people together to have fun, because Mercury is fun. 5th house, also the house opposite, is fun, but bring people together. But there's this gaining element always going on. They're just like, so they might actually talk about like oh yeah, I've heard through my corporation that this particular group is going to be the shares in this company are going to go up or something. So they share that. There is that kind of element of passing on the knowledge between their groups, because they've kind of got each other's back. So it will be like one passes on and the other one returns the favor at some point. And they could be like playing golf and doing wheeling dealing, as they say in the UK. So and so if it's all kind of like they want to gain, they want to have the knowledge, they want to they're very savvy about all those investments and things, and their networks they look after each other in terms of gains and fulfilling their desires, you know. And this house will get better and better as time goes by. Now, if Mercury for you is your second house ruler, goes into the 11th house, that will be like big gains as well. And if Rahu's got anything to do with it, so second house and 11th house will be gains, could be banking, it could be investments, but it could also be with Rahu, will be foreign people, but it will also expand that gains as well. So it could be huge gains depending on that. And and the other thing I wanted to just point out as well, this will be societies as well. So if 12th house ruler is involved here, or Mercury is a 12th house ruler in the 11th house, it could be secret societies, you know, all these people that we hear, they get up to all sorts of strange stuff. So that could be part of that too. So you always want to just see that as well. But also 12th house will naturally, eventually, will give them losses. So, you know, it's, I guess it's one of those things that there is that wheel of fortune in life. So you naturally, if you karmically damage something, it comes back on you. So that's that kind of thing. And I think this is very telling as well about Upachaya houses and things like that. So there could be some obstacles in the way, and you have to really learn to navigate your way through this before things get easier, if you like. So I'm just going to do like for different ascendants, so we can just see how things go. So for Aries ascendant, Mercury is the 3rd and 6th house ruler going into the 11th house. So not necessarily a good one for you, because Mercury is not a great planet for Aries ascendant. And obviously, you know, you can see that 6th house could also be debt, and it could be obstacles too, and enemies. So this, you know, they normally, and it's also for Aries ascendant, 11th house is the house that creates like, it's like Badak as well. So it's a house that's going to create problems for them. Every ascendant has got a house that's going to create issues for them. And normally Aries ascendants have got to be very picky about their friends, and so it's better to have the friends that are very intimate, so less friends but very intimate, so they can actually consider them as friends, not just friends but family friends. So they become more like the second house thing, because Mercury, just by the sheer fact that it rules the 3rd and 6th house, their friends can be their enemies. And also, so if you loan money to a friend, you lose your friend and you lose your money. So they have to be very careful. So I would say, because although this is a good thing, it gets better with time for them. So it's not something that they want to just necessarily go be, you know, house of desires. And the 3rd, 6th and 11th house, all three of them are Upachaya houses to get better. So through just kind of losses and obstacles of friends and networks, things would just naturally work better for them over time. It's not something that it could be quite painful for them, you know, these sort of things early in life. But what it will do also from the 5th house, from 11th house, will be aspecting their 5th house. So it just means that they have a really nice, friendly relationship with their friends. With their children, and really helps their education from there, and they get a lot of joy from teaching and being their students, seeing them actually get accolades in life. So for Taurus ascendant, Mercury rules their 2nd and their 5th house going into the 11th house. So this is actually can be really good, because 2nd house is obviously their 2nd house is actually Gemini, and Gemini is house of stock exchange and money. Going into, and 5th house is investment speculation. So if he goes into the 11th house, will be really good. The only thing is for them, the 11th house actually is also where Mercury is debilitated. So you have to make sure you see the condition of Jupiter. So they could be a little bit dreamy about this actually, but if they just really keep it grounded, and if it goes into a good situation in D9, that Mercury, then it will actually do well. But yeah, generally speaking, on the surface, it looks pretty good. But I think it's, again, because it's Upachaya house, it does get better with time. It does create a Dhan Yoga couple of done yogas actually, so it's really good in that sense. And then for Gemini ascendant, Moon rules their second house, but Mercury rules first and fourth house. So just obviously, if there is any connection to the second house being ruled by the Moon, then that will be a really good done yoga. But Mercury rules first and fourth house, so it does actually create really really kind of like nice done yoga for them as well, because it'll be first house ruler in the 11th house. That'll be good, but it will be difficult condition in a sense, because the 11th house is Aries, it's an unfriendly sign, so it will be a little bit difficult to begin with. However, from there, Mercury will be aspecting their 5th house Libra, and it's a friendly sign, and it also creates a lot of nice done yogas for them. But generally speaking, the feeling behind it will be a bit difficult. It could be gaining of land, property, gain through mum, because 4th house being mother. But it will get better with time. All things to do with this house, with 11th house is better with time. You want to also always check the condition of the dispositor of Mercury. And obviously, if it's got any connections with the Moon, then that will create a really nice done yoga as well. But as it is on its own, first house ruler in the 11th house, it's a nice done yoga. For Cancer ascendant, Mercury rules the 3rd and 12th house ruler, going into the 11th house, which will be Taurus 11th house. So this will be for them. What will happen is, so the 3rd house and 12th house is not really particularly good houses, because one of them is also the loss. 12th house will be, and Mercury, just generally speaking, doesn't do much good for Cancer ascendant. But it's Mercury then goes into a friendly sign though, so that helps, and it also really, really helps from their blesses their 5th house, if you like, being a friendly sort of in friendly sign and being a benefic as well. But generally speaking, it will be difficult. It'll get better with time. They have to put effort into it, because 3rd house is the house of effort and really applying yourself, learning skills in order to gain from it. So it will get better with time, but there could always be losses of friends or losses of networks or losses of those gains as well. By sheer fact that Mercury is not a good planet for them. For Leo ascendant, this is actually will be like the 2nd and 11th house ruler in the 11th house own sign, so it will be really, really strong in that sense. So for this will be a really strong done yoga. From there, it will also be a very, very strong Mercury, because Mercury in Gemini is very astute, is very very savvy about the markets, really great at communication, bringing people together, is friendly, it kind of knows about money, knows about banking. This could be a banking situation as well, and it will be blessing their 5th house of Sagittarius as well. So this is really, really good placement. For Virgo ascendant, this will be 1st and 10th house ruler in Cancer. So it's not a friendly sign to Mercury, so the feeling will be a bit difficult, but it does create a done yoga. But not, you have to look at Moon as well to see what the condition of the Moon is. But generally speaking, it could be really good gains from work. It could be like working with gain through, because Cancer is overseas, through things to do with work that you do overseas, friends overseas, things like that. But for work and actual personal gain as well as work gain is good. For Libra ascendant, this will be, so basically their sort of like 11th house is actually Leo, and so for them will be like Mercury being there. Mercury is 9th and 12th house ruler. Going into a friendly sign, so it will be good. This could be the secret societies, maybe, because actually Mercury is a good planet for them, and Mercury is comfortable in Leo, and so this could be you know, Mercury does pretty well there, and also any gains that they get too, because this is like a fixed sign, it will be good gains. And generally speaking, Librans, if Venus is actually in a good condition as well, they kind of know how to find correct friends anyway. They're very quite savvy in that sense. So yeah, this could be a good thing. But they could, as I said, you know, it's a 12th house ruler as well. So, but these people will be very influential friends. And it's 9th house ruler as well in the 11th house. A really nice done yoga for them in many ways. For Scorpio ascendant, this will be Mercury is the 8th and 11th house ruler in the 11th house. So it will be own sign in Virgo. And Virgo, Mercury is much more practical, much more into detail. It's much more calculating about what they, you know, they're very savvy. They could also be earning because it's 8th house from taxes, offshore money, secret money, things to do with that, inheritances, things like that. And for Sagittarius ascendant, their 11th house is Libra. So Mercury will be their 7th and 10th house ruler in the 11th house. So it would be really good for gains. Mercury will be comfortable in Libra as well. So that's pretty good and creates really nice Raj yogas for them. So, you know, so yeah, so actually I don't know about Raj yogas, but yeah, it kind of gives them really good gains really. So and it's a friendly sign. Have a look at Venus and see where Venus goes, because that will connect everything together. For Capricorn ascendant, the 11th house is Scorpio. It's not a friendly sign at all, and this will be Mercury will be their 6th and 9th house ruler in the 11th house. So it does create a nice done yoga for them for money. The situation with Mercury will be quite difficult in the sense, you know, Mercury in signs of it's a secret sign anyway, you know. Scorpio is a natural 8th house thing, so this could also be what we were talking about, like, because obviously Capricorn will be like a government sign, you know. This is obviously I you know, but there could be some gains through governments, through secret things, through secret groups, things like that. Mercury obviously, you know, being like also the 6th house ruler and 9th house ruler, there could be some sort of gains through father as well. To begin with, it'll give them a lot of difficulties because it's the 6th house ruler as well. So, but it's an Upachaya house. Mercury does well dealing with sort of difficulties of life because it naturally rules the 6th house. And 6th house for them is also like Gemini. So they're multifaceted. They can work through things. But yeah, it does create Raj Yoga. So for Aquarius ascendant, their 11th house and 2nd house is ruled, both of them, by Jupiter. So Jupiter is money-making planet for them. So this would be Jupiter, 2nd house ruler in the 11th house, own sign, very strong and very focused sign as well. And Mercury will be for them, will be 5th house ruler in the 11th house and also 8th house ruler. So they could gain through inheritance, taxes, secret money, investments, stock exchange, and from there also, you know, Jupiter will be blessing the 5th house, will be blessing their 3rd house and also their 7th house as well. So it could be really good for work too. So this could be quite a strong placement too. For Pisces ascendant, so their 11th house is Capricorn, and Capricorn is a very upward look up. Yeah, it looks upwards. So it's a very sort of like they like to climb. You know, it's very ambitious sign. So for them, the 11th house being, you know, Capricorn is very helpful. It's a sign that Mercury can do pretty well in as well. And this is their 4th and 7th house ruler in the 11th house. So it is pretty strong. It does work pretty well for them as well. And from there, obviously, Mercury is aspecting their 5th house. So it's a quite a good, you have to obviously look at Saturn and just see what Saturn's condition is, but it does rule the 12th house as well. So this could be, again, it could be secret societies, it could be like there could be losses, there could be charities, involve big networks. The 12th house is big networks as well. So there could be secret society networks as well, secret networks and stuff. So that's it. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.